name is Ashley Rodgers, and I'm from Lima, Ohio. I have been in recovery since March 14th, 2018. Today, I am a strong advocate. I am an employee and a business owner.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to hear more about that, those parts of your life too. So, if you could start off by telling us a bit about your childhood.
I had a very rough childhood. My mother was diagnosed with cancer when I was 2 years old, and she was pregnant with my younger sister. She went through her pregnancy and then had the surgery to remove the tumor. When she did, she lost a lot of her cognitive ability and kind of got stuck at a preteen level intellect. A lot of my family didn't recognize that and didn't, I guess they didn't know what to do. So from a very young age, like 6 years old, I could write checks and money orders and pay bills. It was a struggle. And I, at the same time, starting at about 4 years old, I was being sexually assaulted by a family member. And that caused a lot of issues.
Absolutely.
As I got older, I found that even though I was really good in school, I wasn't great at the social aspect of things. And I got married very young. I got married straight out of high school to my high school sweetheart. And for a couple of years, it was great. It really was. Then he started to get into drugs because of medication he was given for an injury assist on his spine. And I was going through a lot of stress with my family. My little sister just had a baby at 15. And my family pushed for me to take him, like to adopt him, because they didn't want him to get lost in the system. I didn't feel that I was able to do that, and the stress coming from my family kind of pushed me in the same direction as my husband. He was already using. At first it was just hydrocodone and Oxycontin, and then it turned into heroin because it was cheaper. So that's when things really kind of bit the dust.
Yeah, for sure. So just backing up just a little bit. So when you had shared about the struggles, all the variety of trauma that you had experienced, was there ever a school counselor that tried to help, or anybody from the community that ever reached out and offered any assistance?
My family kind of pushed to keep everything hidden so that we wouldn't deal with CPS and we wouldn't have that whole interaction. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to deal with the issues that would cause. So I did express things to my counselor at school, and there was just more questions than actual help. It felt like they either didn't believe me or that they just didn't want to delve into it further.
Gotcha. And if you didn't have anybody in your corner from a family perspective to be able to assist in that, you're kind of flying blind at a pretty young age and trying to navigate the world, that would have been really challenging. How was your relationship with your sister growing up?
Not good.
Okay.
We were pretty terrible to each other. There was a lot of fighting. I always kind of thought that they gave her special treatment, or like they treated her differently than me. I was, not to sound arrogant, I was a really easy child to deal with. I was the top of my class from like preschool on, and I didn't really cause any trouble. And when I did, I knew I was in trouble, so I would like punish myself. I would go and ground myself. While my sister was kind of the exact opposite child. If she could cause havoc, she caused havoc.
And it makes sense, the early marriage of, wanting to maybe escape, or feel that some of that safety and whatnot that you hadn't received in childhood. So so you had shared about your husband being prescribed this for physical pain, but also pain meds also we try and use those for psychological pain, and it works for some
Yes.
time until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't.
So how many years would you say that you were in that active addiction?
About 6.
Okay.
I don't remember the very first time that I tried. I just know, like, where the end point was. So there was about 6 or 7 years of heroin addiction, and I was a functional addict for a long time. I still got up and went to work. I still, paid my bills and took care of myself and took care of my husband. Until I didn't.
Right, right, yes. And how were your relationships impacted by your use?
They were horrible. My mom was always there for me regardless, and I don't think that she had the ability to understand what was really going on with me. But I destroyed a lot of relationships. I asked for money when things were getting low, and I used and manipulated a lot of people. I still to this day feel really guilty about a lot of that. I have tried to make amends with as many people as I can.
You shared 6-7 years of real active addiction. At any point did you experience any like criminal justice interactions?
So going back a little bit, because of all the stress that I was going through before active addiction, I actually got a felony. I started having pseudo seizures at the end of high school. They said stress induced, so they gave me just a handful of different drugs to try to take care of it, and they caused me to have some serious delusions, which ended with me having an arson charge.
Oh my gosh.
I believed wholeheartedly that I was being robbed and that someone other than me had lit a fire. So I went to jail for 3 days. I was on probation for 2 years, and it was shortly after completing probation that the active addiction kind of started. And then so over the course of those 6 or 7 years, I overdosed a total of 3 times. All 3 times I had to be Narcaned, and two of the 3 made it, or I got charges for. So I came into adulthood kind of just like full force.
Right.
It was a DUI. So they gave me a DUI because I was behind the wheel of a car and I overdosed. They Narcaned me, took me to the hospital, and released me. I never completed the hotel stay of sobriety, and that kind of held over until my final overdose, which was actually July 9th, which was my wedding anniversary. We were celebrating. In active addiction, we're not smart.
Right.
And that was my final overdose. I was Narcaned in Rushvania. Actually, Peak of Ohio posted not only my name and address, but the entire story. Shout out to them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a pretty typical thing in this area, which blows my mind.
Share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So I overdosed on Friday night and was taken to the hospital. I was treated and I was released. I was given a 30, I had to go and sign up for something within 30 days, and which is wonderful in this county. That is a great way to help people get into recovery. But Monday morning, and my husband and myself were living in his father's basement at the time. It was all we could do. We had nothing left. Monday morning, they posted the entire story. Peak of Ohio posted the entire story on not only the website, but in the paper itself. I have a copy of it now. And they posted my full name, my full address. They posted who, picked me up and what I was assigned, that I was supposed to get the treatment within 30 days.
That's just bizarre to me.
I've
never heard of such a thing, but I don't know. That's. Do you have any idea the motivation behind that?
I don't. It's something that I really hope that they change. The comments alone on the bottom of that article put me in such a dark place. And because of that article, we actually lost our home. So my father-in-law told us we needed to leave. And looking back, I am so sorry that happened, and I'm so sorry they posted his address and everything to do with that. So, during that 30-day period, I got a visit. So, I like to tell this story because it's funny to me now. Wasn't funny in the moment. I was downstairs in the basement. I was just relaxing. I had not decided whether or not I was going to get treatment, because when you release someone into the wild like that. But I'm sitting there and I hear the loudest, most aggressive knocking I've ever heard in my life. And everyone knows what a cop knock sounds like. Like, it still gives me shivers. So I was like, oh God, they're coming to get me. So big knock on the door. I dove underneath my bed. I am not even kidding. I thought they were going to break the door down. I waited, and knocking stopped. I heard a car pull away, and I was like, okay. So I went upstairs to kind of survey the scene, and there is a red folder tucked into the door, in between the screen door and the regular door. I picked it up, and inside is all of this information, and the very first thing in there is a card with the name Kathy Zeller and Recovery Zone on it. But behind there's a big stack of papers. There's, information about local medicated treatment. There was everything. There was a list of 12-step meetings. Pretty much everything I could have asked for if I'd wanted it.
Right.
I put that folder on a shelf, and I was still pretty heavy into my active addiction for a few months. It was about 4 months. And I finally picked it up. And when I actually picked it up, I went to make the phone call because Kathy's card was right there. And I call, and she answers, and I don't know, your viewers probably don't know this about Kathy, but she is the most bubbly, excited, happy, bright, sunshiny person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a really dark place. So I was instantly like, oh, no, hi, what? Okay. She was like, oh, come to Recovery Zone, you'll love it here. I was really skeptical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I wasn't prepared to get treatment. When I finally decided to, I came to Recovery Zone first because that was the only place that I was sure that there was a human that was on my side.
Right.
And I walked into the Recovery Zone here in Logan County, and I was greeted with Kathy's bright smile. I was not prepared, and multiple people wanted to hug me. That show of love scared the bejesus out of me, and I started coming to classes. They offer so many different group activities, even things like Love Yourself Bingo.
That's awesome.
So if you get a bingo, you have to say something that you love about yourself or someone else, and then you get a prize.
Right.
And it was very intense at first, and I still was in active addiction. So I was leaving Recovery Zone and getting high, but I wanted so badly to not be that person.
Mm-hmm.
So March 14th, of 2018, I came into Recovery Zone in the morning, and I was dropped off at like 7 a.m. and I sat outside on these rocks, and I made a decision. That was the day that I made the decision that I didn't want to be like this anymore. I know it's said a lot, but I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was so miserable in withdrawal every day, and still trying to hold down a job, trying to just live my life. So I went into Recovery Zone and I sat through classes, and it got to be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's at the time when they closed. But I knew that if I left that day, I was going to get high, and the cycle would just start all over again. So I stopped caffeine, and I said, I can't go home. I need help. She said, okay, we have a 12-step meeting here today at 5 o'clock. Let's go grab something to eat. And that was a huge thing for me. Like, I got to a point in my addiction where my main food source was stolen honey buns from the gas station. I ate brownie batter powder with a spoon because that's what I had available.
Right.
So we went to lunch, came back to the 12-step meeting, and after the 12-step meeting, I still knew, like, I can't go home. So we drove to another 12-step meeting. That is one thing about this town. There is multiple 12-step meetings almost every day. And when I finally went home that night, it was the first night that I could remember where I wasn't high and I was happy about it.
Yes. Yes. What an amazing initiation into recovery, and having, you know, a person, I mean, that's what makes recovery, is the people, and having somebody that was willing and capable, and you also were, you asked for the help that you needed and were able to receive it, and weren't put on a wait list or told, okay, come back tomorrow, or sorry, we close at 2 o'clock. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
There were multiple times I got put on those wait lists. Trying to contact treatment for inpatient or outpatient treatment or medically assisted treatment, I was probably on 30 lists, and my husband as well. Like, we were on every list in Ohio that you can imagine. And I will say there was a period where now my ex-husband, but my husband was on medically assisted treatment with Suboxone, and it was the shadiest thing I have ever seen. A doctor having everyone come in at the exact same time and basically just stand in line waiting for a prescription that they were paying $250 for.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then you would go to the pharmacy to get it filled, and the pharmacist looks at you like you are absolute garbage. I can't believe the amount of stigma that's still around for something that has been classified as a disease.
Yeah. It is, we are changing, but it is still very much there. And even some stigma within the recovery community regarding things like medication-assisted treatment. And I think part of that is some of the shady doctors that are out there, and that just kind of perpetuates some of the problems. But there are organizations out there that are doing it right, and there are people out there that really do get well.
Absolutely.
And that's their pathway. So day one, you make it through it. Talk to us about the next 30 days. What did you do to be able to stay in recovery?
The first 30 days were insane. Normally they recommend 30 and 30. For 12 step, one of their biggest recommendations is go to 30 meetings in 30 days. Mm-hmm. I went to probably 90. I was going to 2 to 3 12-step meetings a day. I just knew that in that place I was safe from my demons. I, when I wasn't, so I came every morning to Recovery Zone, and we did all types of activities, and it was something to keep not only my body moving to kind of fight off that sickness, but also to keep my mind engaged and to show me that there were other people that were doing it. At the time, there was a man here named Ron, and him and his two sisters were staples here at Recovery Zone. And I always called Ron my sunshine, because no matter what, no matter how bad I felt that day, whether it was the withdrawal symptoms or whether it was just a bad brain day, he was always there with a smile. And we celebrated multiple events with him as far as his recovery and mine. Unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, but he was an absolute light.
That's awesome.
And that's one thing that I found, like here at Recovery Zone, there's always someone to talk to or someone to help you through. You just have to be willing to give it a chance.
So for someone who is out there who is struggling, do you have some words of hope or inspiration that you could share?
You can do it if you take the first step. Every step after that gets easier, and there will be bumps, there will be trips, but if you don't take the first step, you don't go anywhere.
So you mentioned earlier on that you do that you're an advocate. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like and how you live that daily?
So I participate in as many activities that the community has, talking about drug addiction, talking about mental health, and the LGBTQ community. Pretty much any community that is not understood or is stigmatized. If I can participate, I will. And I would say the biggest thing for me is just being vocal, just speaking up and telling my story the exact way that it is, all the bumps and bruises along the way.
And that's the piece that's so important, is that you experienced jail, you experienced 3 years of probation, a divorce, like a loss of a parent, the loss of your mother. I mean, those are life things that happen that are really a lot of it out of your control, and you've gone through it with grace. Also, you have this full-time job at a local automotive employer. What other work are you also doing out there then?
So me and my two best friends decided to take some of our creative side, and we make soap and bath bombs and jewelry. Pretty much we just turned a little bit of craftiness into a side business that helps my one best friend support her kids, and me and Hannah have a creative outlet, since our job is so rigid and so organized and timed. So we go to local farmers markets, the Wapak and Salina farmers markets, and we sell our product. So Essentially Sisters is our name.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Are you guys, do you have a website or Etsy yet?
We absolutely do. You can find us at Essentially Sisters on Shopify, and you can find us on Facebook. We're always posting something new because I can't help myself. I like to make pretty things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and what a cool outlet to find in recovery, and being able to do it with people that you love. That's awesome. What other dreams do you have for yourself that are, a possibility today?
That one's a little hard, because I believed wholeheartedly that I was not going to survive my addiction. That if it wasn't my addiction that killed me, it would be the mental illness. Mm-hmm. So
I didn't make a list, but I'm finding every day there are new things I want to experience and explore that I never thought were a possibility. I would love to travel. The world is such an amazing place with so many beautiful experiences, and that's an actual possibility now.
Yes, yes, it is. And the world is your oyster, so to speak. Being able to get out there and really living it, and you know, remembering it, and being there. You know, so many times people talk about in active addiction, either sitting on the bar stool or sitting in the basement there of you know, talking about going places. And in recovery, we actually get to talk about it and then do, which is pretty spectacular. Well, thank you so much for taking time. You have just an amazing story, and so open and honest that your story is going to help somebody out there who is struggling with some of the same experiences, and giving that hope that, you know, we do recover.